Are you good?
Call it to order at 4 o'clock. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Four point one is, or excuse me, 4.2. Adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to adopt the agenda as posted.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Jerry,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
and I also agree. Motion carries. Moving on to 2.1, we have student presentation. Let me know if you need any help.
Okay, thank you. No problem. You don't want to share. If you, I don't know.
You need to share the screen.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, should be able to. Mhm. Do you want us to turn the lights on? We could probably see the screen a little better.
Here.
Sure. I don't know. Care.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Okay. Alrighty, so my name is Katerina Freitas. I'm 15 years old and in 10th grade, and I've been part of this school since kindergarten, when it was known as the Full Valley Charter School. And as some of you may know, our school has an FFA chapter now. And before I explain about our FFA chapter and what we've been doing and what we hope to do, I'm going to explain about what is FFA, what opportunities FFA has to offer to students, and what FFA stands for. So FFA stands for Future Farmers of America, and it is an agricultural-based organization. So FFA is a school-based youth leadership development national organization, and students that are in FFA are enrolled in a school-based agricultural education program. Students in FFA find out who they are, who they want to become, and how they will make it.
But it may not be what we want.
FFA offers endless leadership opportunities and a really good looking resume. So in our chapter, we have 8 members so far, and we're hoping to get some more. The president is myself, vice president we have Sophia, secretary is Makayla, treasurer is Shanoa, Reporter is Daisy, Sentinel is Zeno, Advisor is Marshall, and Historian is Ricard. So what we've been doing so far is learning how to run an official FFA meeting, learning how to become better officers and more about our duties. And we've been working on getting our FFA jackets, which was actually gifted to us by the National FFA organization as a welcome. So we're able to get free jackets, scarves, and ties. We've also been learning about what an SAE project is and what we will be doing for our SAE project. So we hope to participate in county, regional, and national FFA activities. Participate in leadership development and community service and have fundraisers so we're able to do fun stuff. And that's about it. Is there any questions?
Well, first of all, I'm really impressed. In a former life, I was quite involved with FFA and 4-H. This is exciting. So I'm curious to know when is the first region-wide gathering where you'll be able to go and represent Northern United?
So that's a good question. So they do have a career expo happening. But I don't know if we'll be able to make it this year. That's still kind of up in the air. But they've also they've had events around here in the county to help with like officers or freshmen and just different things like that.
I wanted to know what SAE stood for. Someone was SAE project, what's that?
So SAE stands for Specific Agricultural Education Experience. And so that's something where we make a project or we can do entrepreneurship, which is something like showing at the fair and selling an animal there. We can do community
Service
placement, which is like where we can get a job. And we can also do exploration, which is where we learn about a specific topic. And whichever we choose, we make a slideshow about it. And at the end of the FFA year, we put together a slideshow that we present it to the whole shop.
So every individual member does their own project.
Yeah.
How-
Do you have any questions?
That was the only one I wrote down. Same question.
How often do you hold meetings?
So usually we do monthly meetings. So we had our first meeting last month and we're actually gonna have our second meeting next week. So
Who is the advisor to the chapter?
Kathy.
I'm so excited about it, and we've linked up with the other teachers in the county already, and so we're really excited to be part of the social events and all the events, and including leadership building activities. I know there's a state conference in the spring, which would be really exciting if we can, get to that. And we've kind of been advised to not bite off too much. Because sometimes people do that their first year and then they get overwhelmed and don't continue. So we've been kind of advised to take it easy and just like start our first year, get our projects underway and get our group solid and our leaders understanding their roles and learn the creed and, learn the kind of the basics and get solid with that and enjoy the social events because many of these kids know one another through 4-H anyway, so, but it'll be great, like to link up with the Ferndale kids and the Eureka kids and, Fortuna kids and for K kids, so it'll be a really neat experience.
Absolutely.
Is the gifting of the jackets by the national organization?
I believe it was
Standard
from an
offering?
almond growers organization. They saw that we were a new chapter and reached out and said, hey, as a gift, we'd like to offer you jackets, ties, and scarves.
They're not cheap.
No,
Exactly.
they're at least $60 a piece for the
Yeah,
jacket, not to
right.
mention the other things. So, yeah, big thank you notes will be written at our next meeting.
That's really awesome. That is super awesome.
Yeah.
Melissa, do you have any questions or comments?
My main question was also related to the SAE project, and I was wondering, is that a requirement, and is it like kind of the main thing that the children do each year, or?
Yeah, so it is a requirement that the FFA does. And that is kind of the main thing that will be just like focused on, but also like other leadership opportunities and like community service and stuff.
There's public speaking opportunities, there's like a lot of things that we can build into, and so we're just gonna, kind of get one thing going at a time, but we're really excited about it and just so happy that we got approved. Last year we really wanted to do it, but we could only find 2 kids that would really commit, and so one of the things is they have to be in an ag science or an ag class. And so this year we've got hydroponics 1 and 2, and we also have floral designs. So we have those 3 classes to pull from, and that's great, because we got some kids, quite a few from the floral design class. And so those teachers have to have CTE credentials. And Mark Johnson, who teaches hydro, does, but our teacher, who does, the floral does not, but she's working on it now through Orange County Office of Ed. So she's got, a clearance for us, and, I was looking into it, like how to expand my credential, but I'm not able to do that because you need 2 years of ag experience, and so that's something I don't have. Maybe I'll take classes in the future, but it's just really neat, this whole thing.
So
It's inspiring.
looking down the road, what ideas do you have for different teams to be able to compete? Because, there's, every school has a different focus. Like Eureka used to have a forestry group. Maybe they still do. Parley Pro team, and the debate team, and, different things. Have you
Well, I mean,
begun to look ahead?
I've begun to look ahead on quite a few things, but one of them was how to expand our agricultural education offerings. And I've looked into that a little bit. Right now, I've been able to see that through eDynamics, they have an agriculture pathway that's taught by real CT teachers. So that could open up more classes, and then more kids could be involved in FFA. But what we can do is really pretty open. We can choose, and I really want the kids to be, driving this, what they want. Do they want to work on a school garden that we maybe work on with another school or in the community or somewhere? What do we want to do? Focus on animals maybe, or do we want to focus on public speaking, leadership? So I want to know from them, and then I'll just really support them.
Exciting.
I'll be their cheerleader.
There you go. I
Thanks,
have,
Kathy.
a question and then also a comment. What, was your, motive, so to speak, to get involved with FFA?
So I'm in 4-H. And I've heard about FFA and I really want to be an FFA. But since I went through a homeschooling choice, our school didn't offer an FFA chapter, and I found out that we could start one. So I helped start it because I really wanted to be involved in FFA. So Yeah, I'm really excited about this.
Good girl. I can see the excitement on your face. And my comment is, and I'm gonna look at Jerry. We've come a long way, baby.
Oh, yes.
This is something really exciting and, I think that we're all really proud of this.
We're one of the few homeschooled, schools to have an FFA chapter, so.
Oh, sure,
Mhm.
sure, sure.
Good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're really creative.
And just so you guys know, you don't have to stay for the whole meeting if you don't want to.
It will teach you how to run a meeting. Yeah. There we go. Moving on to, the consent agenda. We have 3.1, which is consideration of approval of warrants and payroll for Northern United Humboldt. 3.2, consideration of approval of warrants and payroll for Northern United Siskiyou, batch numbers 0911, 0915, 0918, and 0926. We also have 3.3, thank you, ladies. 3.3, consideration of approval of minutes for the September 13th board meeting. 3.4, consideration of resignations, hires, leaves, and change of assignments. And 3.5, consideration of the Williams Uniform Complaint Quarterly Report for NUCS. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll motion to accept the consent agenda as posted.
And a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Jerry,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
and I also agree. Motion carries. Moving on to public comments, 4.1. Comments by the public. Under this item, the public is invited to address the board regarding items that are not on today's agenda. Please keep your comments concise, brief, and limited to 3 minutes. The board is not allowed under the law to take action on matters that are not on the agenda. Should comments from the public pertain to a charge or complaint against an employee of Northern United Humboldt Charter School or Northern United Siskiyou Charter School, the board encourages the speaker to utilize the school's written complaint procedures to pursue the matter. The public will have an opportunity to comment on all agenda items as those items are heard. Do we have any public comments? Okay. Moving on to action items. 5.1, approval of the 2023-2024 annual goals plan.
Okay, so you guys remember that we developed the annual goals over the course of, I think we had a discussion maybe in August and then approved them in September. And so then we've written a plan to how we're going to address those goals. And that is in your packet. I'll just point out a couple specifics. I know you guys have already had the opportunity to read it, but you may remember that these were essentially the same goals, except that for goal 2, I added a section about attendance on there. And so in the plan part, like the last paragraph of that section, I talked about how we're going to focus on attendance. And one of the things that we have added this year to try to boost that is, I think I've spoken before about the fact that both of our schools received the community school grant. And as part of that planning grant, we were able to hire a community school coordinator for each of the schools. So we have enlisted them as part of the attendance process. So when we have a student who's not completing their work or missing their meetings, in addition to, we're gonna have kind of parallel tracks, in addition to what we had already going on our missed assignment policy, which you guys are familiar with. We also now are going to have the community school coordinator reach out to the family, kind of at the same time to kind of determine if there are any other barriers that, you know, to completing their work or meeting their teacher, you know, is there a transportation issue? Is it like, what are other barriers involved? And hoping that the community school coordinators can, you know, maybe support the families in getting the assignments done and getting our attendance boosted. So that's one thing I just wanted to point out that is kind of an addition in this plan. But anyway, does anybody have any questions about it?
Just some comments.
What did you say? He said just some comments. Oh, yes, Jerry.
I really like this. I like the way it's laid out. One of the things I'm all about is being proactive and not reactive. And I mean, we've identified an issue, and we all know in education that everything is impacted by attendance or lack thereof. And this is what, you know, really struck me, and then also with your comments is that, yeah, you fortunately we have those grants, and so we have some extra personnel, and they're going to be tasked with, you know, going the extra mile and reaching out to them to find out,
They've
hey,
already
what's
done
going on?
visits. They've already done that.
Yeah, that's great. And if problems still exist, it definitely won't be because for lack of things that we're doing or attempting to do. And so, you know, it is what it is. And so I'm really impressed with, I mean, this is a really well thought out plan to, I mean, you're touching base with all the different aspects.
Thank you.
And as I see it. So.
Amy or Melissa, any comments or questions?
No, it looks good.
I just think that it's super thorough, and it really makes like these goals that, even though they're very specific, they're just kind of like, okay, that's what we want to do. Now it like brings them to life and makes them really tangible, and it's very realistic ways to meet them. And I also really appreciate your like clarifying and going more deep into the counseling aspect, because I think that's like such a good way to meet those kids that are kind of just falling, you know, away. Like really just a lot of kids I think just need that, like somebody to come in and be like, well, where are you struggling? Let me help you stay on track. So I think that's great. I'm glad we were able to hire those support for our schools.
Yeah, I agree. I have one comment about the community engagement initiative grant. I think that if any of our members could spare the time, that might be something of benefit to sit in on that. I sit on the community schools committee, and I think that our input is valuable to these different committees. And so if you have the time or the interest, that might be something to consider.
And I was going to speak more to that in my report.
Oh, okay. And I know that we all received a notice through Parent Square as well about that. Hearing no more comments or further discussion, is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the 2023-2024 annual goals plan.
And a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Jerry,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Melissa, And I also agree, motion carries. 5.2, approval of the NC Siskiyou unaudited actuals. I don't know if Kelly wants to speak to this or not. We didn't even talk about it, but you guys might remember that last month we had the unaudited actuals for Humboldt, and now we've received them for Siskiyou. You want to say anything, Kelly?
It's fairly similar to Humboldt where it came in pretty close to where we had budgeted at budget adoption, so everything looked pretty good when I reviewed the unaudited actuals. Hopefully it's one of the last things that Siskiyou County office will be preparing for us. We'll start doing our own out.
So Kelly and I had a meeting with Siskiyou County office, was that yesterday? Because we let them know that we wanted to take over the budgeting. And so we had decided that we would let them kind of finish up 22-23, which unaudited actuals was kind of the last thing for that. And now first interim is the next thing for this year. And so Kelly's going to be taking that on. So she goes over there next week to be trained in their system. I just can't help but say one other thing. So we received these unaudited actuals from Siskiyou County, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago after our last board meeting, but before this. And Kelly took just a kind of a first kind of cursory glance from them, and she was like, these are wrong. She pointed out all kinds of things that were incorrect. And she contacted them and said, like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And so they redid them and, gave us this copy, which then she reviewed to make sure that they were correct. I just want to point out that, if we didn't have somebody with such expertise, we would not have known, we would have not caught that stuff. I mean, we can catch some things, but I just so appreciate Kelly, her diligence and her expertise in being able to spot these kinds of things, because, to be honest, I kind of feel like we've had, incorrect budgets or incorrect kind of things. And then that just kind of builds and snowballs. The budget adoption was looking kind of wonky. And then we get a first interim that's building on that. And that's kind of looking wonky. And this has just kind of been happening. And so she spent a lot of time cleaning up the Siskiyou budget even before we got the unaudited actuals. And so I think she was really kind of ready to take a look at these, she kind of knew already, and I think as Siskiyou County Office of Ed, I think that the person who has been our budget tech, absolutely in her defense, she's new, she's been, she's been learning this. I think it was maybe a little bit of a difficult pill for her to swallow, that we maybe found some errors. But I think that the county, the assistant soup of business there, I think she is really pleased that we have somebody who is so knowledgeable. And now, like, it's almost like she realizes she's not going to have to worry about us. It's not something that she's going to have to put a staff member on. And, I think it really does help them. And so anyway, I do think it's a win-win.
Thank you.
As soon as you started in your explanation, I immediately thought more or less the same thing. Like, wow, Kelly's really sharp.
Yeah.
She picked up on these things, knowing that something's not right here and there. And so kudos. That's what we like.
Yeah. Yeah. And even the assistant soup there did say, something like, I can tell by the things she found how knowledgeable she is, or just like the language, she speaks that language, she's fluent. Yes, yes.
Are there any other questions or comments for Sherry or Kelly? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Northern United Siskiyou Charter School unaudited actuals.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Jerry,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Melissa,
Hi.
and I also agree. Motion carries. 5.3, approval of the Fort Ross field trip. I guess we could have had Kathy stay to talk about the field trip. Yeah. But you guys had I put stuff in the packet and then she kind of fine tuned it, and that was the second thing I emailed out. I don't know if you guys want a copy, I have extra copies over here, but it's just their itinerary for while they're gone, and yeah. Anyway, so she's taking a group of students, used to be the Fort Ross, and she has done this in the past, but this time she's doing a slightly different program. Last time it was like a living history kind of thing that she did. This time it's a marine program, marine exploration program, and I don't think this was in her handouts, but something she mentioned to me. They decided that they were going to fundraise, like do bake sales for the food. And so they approached Ace Hardware and Pearson's. They're having a bake sale at Ace Hardware, and Pearson said they're not having bake sales right now, but asked what they were doing. And she explained the program that they were going to be doing. And they said, well, we like science. We'll just donate $50 to it. So she got a $50 donation from Pearson's to go toward the food too. So, yeah, I know, super nice. So thank you, Pearson's.
Yeah, it's too bad Kathy left.
I know.
I'm really impressed, but at the same time, I'm not surprised because of who's put this together. That's how she rolls. And gosh, it's been a long time since I've been to Fort Ross, but what an exciting opportunity for our students.
Yeah.
My grandson participated in that a couple of years back.
That was the rough one when we
Yeah.
had snow,
Yes.
icy roads, and the roads were closed.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, yes, but he still enjoyed himself.
Yeah, yeah. These are the kinds of things kids remember.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But all the components, the necessary components are there. You know, the itinerary, the chaperones, their contact information, all of that. And you know, the reason why it's on the agenda is because it is an overnight field trip, and so the board approves overnights.
Very thorough.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I was kind of, just for my information, I was kind of wondering, like, so we don't have to approve stuff like where they're staying or like what they're doing after in the afternoon, like dining plans and stuff like that. So we just don't need to worry about anything like that.
No, the thing that you're approving actually is when we take students on a field trip that's either like very high risk or overnight, we bring that to the board because of the insurance liability part of it. It's not the actual like things they're doing on an overnight trip. It's just the idea that when you take students, you know, overnight like this, there's a risk to it. And it is possible if there was some sort of incident that we would have to, you know, make a claim with our insurance. And so that's why we asked the board to approve field trips, so that that's kind of it's a requirement of the insurance company to show that the board was aware that there was going to be this overnight field trip, and they approved it. So I'm glad you brought that up, Melissa, because that is something that I should have said. It's an important thing. Our previous insurance, when we were part of North Coast Schools Insurance Group, which was like the local JPA, anything high risk had to come to the board because there was a higher deductible. There was a $10,000 deductible for every incident, where our normal deductible was $1,000. But if it's a high risk thing, so that JPA had as part of their policy the board to approve those high risks because they wanted you to know that it could be a significant cost, and you're overseeing like the fiscal, you know, component for the school. This current, our insurance now, Charter Safe, doesn't have that requirement for high risk. For one thing, the deductible is $1,000 even for their high risk, you know, situation. It's not the high dollar high risk, but they do require the overnight approval.
I would say or add, Melissa, that it's the opportunity for the board and individual members to ask about the transportation, the types of transportation. I mean, all those components that go into the overall field trip. Sure, we can ask questions about where are they staying, and you know, how does that work, and how many parent vehicles are taking, the students and, ask questions about, the reliability of those vehicles and so on. If we want to really get, nitpicky about it, and we have that, right and opportunity to do so, if we so choose.
I'll also add, we have lots of field trips. I sign, I don't know how many approvals for field trips, you know, all the time. I mean, I probably have signed 100 already this year. But it's just the overnight ones that you guys are seeing. You know, the other ones I'm just approving, and you know, because they're daytime. And in those cases, you know, sometimes it's school band, sometimes it's parents, or you know, whatever. But there's lots of field trips happening. You're just seeing the overnight ones.
Yeah, because as a mom, I'm like, okay, so we're not picking the cheapest hotel, right? We're putting them somewhere safe, right? So that's like where my mind automatically goes.
You know, last time they camped at Fort Ross. That was part of the experience, and that's kind of what I thought that was this time too.
Yeah, I think they're staying up for that.
Yeah, they're staying at Fort Ross, but yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. No dive motels.
It's like a campground. That's cool.
Yeah.
Fun. Anyways, thanks, guys.
All right, if there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion?
I motion to approve the Fort Ross field trip.
And a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, Jerry,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
and I also approve. Motion carries. Moving on to discussion items. 6.1, discussion of board member mileage reimbursement in the handbook.
And Melissa, I got your email too, so feel free to jump in, and I have your email handy so we can refer to it so we don't forget anything. I put this in here not really necessarily thinking it would be a discussion. It was more like an FYI, but we can have a discussion too. But you guys might remember at the last board meeting, I think it was, Jerry mentioned, oh, I thought of something else that should have been in our offboarding and onboarding section in the handbook. And that's letting the new board member know that, hey, you can get mileage reimbursement, and give them that, like, kind of that procedure or that policy. And so what I did is I went to the handbook, to that section, and I just added it in an area where we already had it. Was the where is it? Where did I put it? Isn't it? I thought it was the second bullet. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I just kind of added it to that list. And so I just wanted to show that to you as kind of as an FYI. Do you think that's an okay place to put it? I can put it someplace else if you want. But that's just kind of where I plopped it in as, I mean, I felt like this is like going to be our reminder to know what to tell everybody for onboarding. So it's in there now. I just wanted you to see that.
Now, where is it here?
Okay, the second era,
Right
yeah.
there.
A review
All that stuff was already listed, and so I just added mileage reimbursement in procedure into that.
Now,
list.
do we need to take it one step further and explain about the mileage reimbursement and the mileage, so to speak, or the distance, I guess I would say?
Well, and I think that brings us to Melissa's email. So she emailed me kind of about this, and you know, I think it was Melissa, I don't want to speak for you, but it was, she wrote a bunch of, you know, she wrote several things that she threw out there that she just wanted to, she felt like if she put it out on in an email to me, then we could remember all the details to say in this meeting right now. So I don't know if you want to take it, Melissa. Do you want to talk about it? You want me to?
Sure, I will. And this is just kind of like food for future thought, I guess. And yeah, I found it too because I was like, I'm not gonna remember what I was saying. But I was kind of, I think one of my like guiding factors to what made me think of this is I'm kind of wondering how dense and long a meeting would be with like explaining all of these things at onboarding, and how much like information somebody can really take in. You know, if we're like explaining about all these things, I feel like even if we do that, it's probably good to have it easily explained in our protocols. For instance, I opened up my board packet or handbook, and mine is 2021, and it's just a document on the computer. And like, then I went and looked on our website and opened up the current one, and I'm like, wow, this is so much better. Like already the information I'm getting just feels like I know what's going on a little bit. And I felt like maybe if we just had a section that explained all of the expectations and also, you know, I don't know, like benefits expectations. I don't remember what I kind of called it in here or if I even did, but that would include stuff like the mileage, the like every once in a while we get emails that say, hey, do you want to attend the Robert's Rule of Order training webinar? Like that would probably be good if you hadn't did it for a few years, and it's required at least once. And then other things like I just missed a couple trainings and I'm like, oh no, I got to get those done. But I kind of forget that there's certain things that are required of us because I kind of just learned them because they were required. I got an email or something, you know, or it was brought up during a meeting. So I thought maybe we need a whole section that just kind of lays out what is expected and what is offered to us as board members.
Yeah, I think that's what you're saying. I don't know if you heard Linda, she said like kind of like a summary of, and I know what some of what Melissa's referring to also is not just the Brown Act training, but the mandated reporter. You know, that's something that is a training that every year our board members are required to do. So like having that kind of stuff, filling out the form 700, like just kind of the list of all the things. The sexual harassment training is every 2 years.
And maybe even something to piggyback on that in chrono order, because
maybe even by month, like a timeline.
Exactly, because like you said, the form, the 700 form, and things that are due in the fall.
Right.
Be on the lookout for this, it's coming up.
Right. So I think Melissa was reminded through email, because you know, you guys get those vector emails about doing that training, and we have to submit all that to HCOE as our authorizer by October 31st, showing who all has done it. And so Linda sends out those reminders about like, hey, you need to do that. And so that's Melissa was reminded about, you know, like, oh yeah, I need to get those done. But that's not something that's like listed on here. So she was wondering if maybe we needed like, I think you called it a like board member expectations or something like, or duties or tasks or something that have to be done. You know, maybe another page for our handbook that like, I like what you said, kind of a timeline.
And
So
I think that would be good for them because like we're also expecting like a good board member would go through this material prior and it is available online. So they could, and then they'd know, oh, this is what is expected. So that way, when they come for their onboarding, they already know versus they're being told, now you're going to have to do this. And you have to, you know, when they maybe were like, oh, I thought I'd probably have work to do, but I didn't really know or something, you know.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you you know, bring up the vector trainings because as I finished mine, all of a sudden it occurred to me, oh, we need to add this to our onboarding process because it's not only an expectation, it's a requirement. And to take it a bit further, I think prospective board candidates need to know some of these things in advance. These are, it's not a matter of just showing up and,
That's
oh, I have good intentions, you know, blah, blah, blah. We have a certain set of expectations that, to be basically a member in good standing, you must do these things. And, certainly, you know, there's some things on here, but the vector trainings, is really important. They have to understand that they have to be able to set aside, you know, an amount of time to be able to go through that. Now, obviously, you know, the difficulty or the effort that's put into that varies from individual to individual. Those who may have a background in an education setting, who might be aware of some of these things already, it's, you know, it's a good refresher. But somebody coming in with zero experience, could be challenging. And you know, they have a bar that said you have to have a certain completion.
It could even be intimidating to some people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in fact, there is a disclaimer there that having to go through this, that you might feel uncomfortable, you know, hearing, you know, some of these things. And I did think of another thing too.
Oh.
And I apologize in advance for never bringing this up. One, I would say it's because of being the chair for a long time, but actually it should have been my responsibility to point it out. And two, since we've never done our retreats with the current board configurations, to talk about protocol for making motions. And I'm old school, I admit this freely, but in motion, if you look up the word motion, you know, I motion Linda to stand over there. You know, motion, you know, something moving, but not to say I motion that we approve this. And if you look at your, unfortunately, I've, for the moment, misplaced my idiot's guide to parley of Robert's rules, but I've had this forever. And you know, and it talks.
Move is a verb and motion is an.
So the proper way to make a motion is to say, I make a motion that blah, 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 or I move that, you know, and I apologize for not bringing this up earlier, but it's just something that's honestly been bothering me for a long time. So, you know, just some basic things to, you know, in a functioning, as a functioning board member, you know, how to, I mean, you eventually, you know, learn it or figure it out, but not necessarily so. So, you know, we've never had that opportunity to, in our get together here or assist you to go over some of these things. So.
And so I propose that you lead by example, and when you make a motion, use the verbiage so that we can hear it and the rest of us can follow the leads, so that we can all get into the routine of making it the proper verbiage, I guess.
Yeah.
Haven't I been doing that?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes, you have.
So for,
Basically, you're saying that a motion actually has to be made. So that's where like a move is a motion. That makes a lot of sense. And now am looking at this Robert Rules cheat sheet. I just brought it up and I can see here it says, you say, I move that we. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for pointing that out. It's those little details, you know?
Good.
okay, well, so if you guys want, then next month I'll put on the agenda my first stab at doing kind of a summary. At first I had said summary expectations for board members, but maybe it should really be summary of requirements for board members, and I'll do it like chronologically
And
and bring
can
it to you.
we move back though to
Yeah.
the mileage reimbursement? And either put that in writing or discuss if we wanted to change that. Because Melissa and Jerry are entitled to mileage reimbursements, but Amy and I live too close.
Do you guys remember what the cutoff was? I intended to look and I was gonna look and forgot. Kelly, you remember, Linda? Kelly and I were gonna talk about.
I know, but I was looking up.
Yeah. I'm sure I have it on my computer. Was it 25 miles? 10
I
miles?
don't think it was that far.
Yeah,
I think we figured out who had to drive the furthest, the miles that they went and rounded it so that it was not over. So it might be 30 because you have to come in
Mine's 26.
26.
and you
So-
qualify.
Yeah,
So I think maybe it's 20 or 25. I'll look and see. I intended to check before we came in here.
but on the mileage, do you have anywhere at what rate they're gonna be reimbursed? I think it's the higher the group.
I know, but is it written in
And
there? Is it in our board bylaws? Is that where we put it? Okay, I'll look and see.
That amount changes every year.
Right. Yeah, so that's what we just say pursuant to the IRS rate or something like that.
That's what we have in our the employee mileage reimbursement as for the higher.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I think it should be added wherever we're agreeing to pay mileage, we should say what we're agreeing to pay.
So it's consistent throughout.
Yep.
And bringing that up, so I know that like, at some point I've received an email about like, here's the mileage form. Is there like a place on the website or like, where are these forms? Like the 700, it gets emailed to us, but is there like a location that if we need them, we can find them?
Yes, and in fact, Kirk, you know what, it was on the website, we've taken all of those like forms off now, and so now we have a shared drive. And I will share, I don't know that it's shared with
No,
you guys.
So since you have, anybody with a newcharters.org email address has access to that shared drive.
Okay.
I'll point it out
So-
to you before we.
Yeah, so
leave.
just so you guys know, it's called NUCS Staff Resources is the name of the shared drive. And it's and then inside that drive, there's folders and there's one for business. You know,
Knowledge and stuff would be in the
inside
business folder.
there. Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the business section.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, we will move on to reports. We have 7.1, the enrollment and attendance report, which was in our packet. 7.2, the financial report for NU Humboldt and NU Siskiyou. Are there any comments or questions about those two?
Attendance just really holds pretty stiff.
The same as last year, huh?
Uh-huh.
Groundhog Day.
And 7.3 is the Northern United Humboldt report. Rebecca, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
It was a busy month.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm adding stuff, but it was a good month. No, I have nothing else to add.
Any questions or comments? Okay. 7.4 is Northern United Siskiyou's report. Kirk, do you have anything to add?
Well, maybe one thing, and I'll put a picture in the next board report, but, Greta's son, Austin, he goes by Ash, but he entered his first cross-country meet in Montague and took first place,
That's so cool.
middle school cross-country meet.
Great.
The third and first. Third.
First,
Third.
he won.
Oh, yeah. I love reading their reports and looking at the pictures and whatnot. Any comments for Kirk or questions? Moving on to 7.5, the director's report.
Okay. I don't have a lot to report, but I just wanted to mention that our first Parent Advisory Council meeting in Humboldt is happening on October 27th. And in Siskiyou, it's happening in December. And that is the PAC is kind of what was the school site council. So anyway, that's getting started. Siskiyou County Office of Ed, since our last meeting, we had an agenda item on their board, SCOE's board agenda, and that was an amendment to the charter petition because of our new facilities. And so they approved that. I think I mentioned it last month that that was on their agenda, but they approved that. HCOE has started a new oversight, authorizer kind of oversight process, different than what they have done the last several years. And so they've introduced that to us, and it includes not only a site visit and, looking at our personnel files and special ed files and things while they're here, but a website review. So like looking at our website, making sure things are there that are required to be on school websites, and then a document review. So they've asked for a lot of different documents in all kinds of different categories, like financial documents, governance documents, things like that. And so the first round of documents that they're requesting is due October 31st. And then, they're all kind of spaced out, but most everything is due January 1st, but they ask for a copy of our first interim budget and second interim budget and budget adoption and things like that. And so those are due on the dates that we're required to do them anyway. So some of the due dates are a little different, but mostly it's all January 1st. As mentioned before, both Humboldt and Siskiyou received the Community Engagement Initiative grants. And basically, it is a program that schools who had received the community school grants could apply for with additional funding and some additional work. And both schools received it, and it is to really kind of teach us about best practices for community engagement. And so, I feel like that's one of those things that has always been a challenge for our schools. I think partially because we are spread out all over the whole, all the counties. So we have all these different facilities. And so I think a lot of times there's good engagement for the individual learning centers, but the school as a whole engagement is difficult. So when I'm wanting feedback on the LCAP, for example, or even things like our graduation ceremony, we have a lot of kids that don't participate. And because that's a school-wide event, where if we had a graduation ceremony just for Eureka Learning Center or just Arcata Learning Centers, I think they would be more, we'd have more participation, more of the graduates would attend those. So I feel like engagement for our whole school has always been an issue. And so I'm excited about this grant because what it does is we have a team of people, and we're supposed to have students, parents, staff, community agency members that make up a team, And we go to, I think it's a total of 8 different training sessions, a minimum of those, because we're having some meetings in between those two. Some are virtual, most of them are virtual, but several of them are in person. So we're actually flying to different places, the whole team, the parents, the students, everybody, the whole team will be flying to different locations for these trainings. And like I said, it's gonna have lots of different speakers and, you know, people coming that are experts in getting communities engaged. And there's a lot of different components to it, kind of a shared leadership model. So it's not just having community members, parents, students involved kind of for token involvement, but to actually be, you know, active participants in decision making. And so it's kind of an exciting opportunity. It does come with a financial incentive. I think it's $70,000 for each year. It's a 2-year grant. So each school will be getting $140,000. And that money that we're getting, that grant money that we're getting, does not include like all of the travel. They're paying for all of that in addition to that grant money. So it's, you know, it's a really neat opportunity. And as Rosemary said, if we have any board members who wanted to participate in that, that would be awesome. Just let me know and I will, you know, cue you into the right person so you can get set up with that. Speaking of board members, I just wanted to show you an example of one of the things that we have sent out for trying to get a new board member in the queue. This was in both email and Parent Square message sent out. That was just the latest attempt. We'll see if we get any takers on that one. And then the last things I wanted to mention were, it's already kind of come up, the idea of, please, if you haven't done your vector trainings yet, that mandated reporter, if you would please do that by our deadline, which is October 31st. No, what is our deadline? 13th, right? Which is just in a couple of days.
The first 6 weeks from the start date of school, we have to turn it in.
Right, we're turning it into HDOE October 31st, but technically it's supposed to be done by all staff members, all board members by October 13th, because that's the 6-week mark of school. So if you haven't done that, please do that. And then the other thing, I don't know, I haven't gotten any additional Brown Act training webinar things lately, but if I do, I will send those out, because for some of us, it's been a while. I think 2019 is the oldest one for Brown Act training. So yeah, I'll send that out if I get another one anytime soon. And that's it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments or questions for Sherry?
How often, I know it's not like required, but is suggested to take that Brown Act training? Is it like every 2 years or?
You know, I don't know that there is a suggested. HCOE asks us as part of their authorizing, they ask us to give them the date. Like I have to give them the date when the last time each of you did it was. They ask for that every single year. And so, you know, I do notice when it starts like, oh, 2019 was the last time, you know, I think I did it. I can't swear by that one.
No,
but-
didn't we do it last year?
Yeah, you guys
I did it
did
in
something
22.
online.
Yeah,
You did in 22.
yeah,
Did we do it last year?
yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I haven't updated mine then.
I didn't update Jerry either.
Yeah, 2019 was, yeah, we did it last year.
Because of-
But I think that, you know, to be honest, after you've done it a few times, I don't feel like you need it again. It's kind of, it gets repetitive. I don't know, maybe sometimes you know, something that is reminded, but it's good to do it a couple times, but I don't know that it's necessary to do it every year.
Yeah, and I think the one,
I could find it. Did
I
we do
think-
it? Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go
No,
ahead,
I'm
Melissa.
sorry. I think your guys' that you did was like a 2-part thing. Like it was a part of another, if I remember right, there was like, you were learning more than just that or something.
Conflict of interest. It's Brown Act and conflict of interest are the two that are usually put together.
Together, right?
It was.
December.
Okay, do you remember the format? Was it a Young Mini and Core one, or was it
Yeah, yeah,
when they
yeah,
came
yeah.
here?
No,
Was
no,
it the
no.
local
No, no,
people?
no.
No, it was just a
It's
regular
It
webinar.
was online.
I don't know if they did it with me.
Yeah, yours was March, I think, of 2022.
Yeah, but the conflict of interest one was April 2022, I think. Or that's when you sent me the.
Yeah, I think ours was it
April
December?
7th?
And because it was talking about not attendance, but you know, all the special things, you know, due to the pandemic that were going to be phased out and.
Oh, like the teleconferencing.
Yeah.
Remember, there was a big
Right,
section on the
right,
teleconferencing.
Right. So, yeah, you and I did that. We participated together.
The Brown Act conflict of interest and something else.
Anyway,
Yeah. We'll find it. We'll definitely find it.
It's a race.
April 7th was the last Brown Act training. I took a conflict of interest training on April 28th.
Oh, yeah.
I don't ever delete my emails though.
Well, on November 14th, 2022, I sent you guys a slide deck from the Brown Act that was provided on November 3rd. So November 3rd, 2022, that was the Humboldt County Charter School Board members one. So November 3rd, at least some of us went November 3rd, 2022.
Yeah.
Would they have a written record of who attended?
No, but everybody who attended would have gotten that email from them with the slide deck, I think. Yeah.
So that's when you went for sure.
That's for sure when I went. Yeah.
Well, sure, yeah, do you want to look and see if you got that slide deck on November 3rd, if you and Sherry went to the same one? And then let me know.
okay.
Okay, thanks. I think we did that. They went to the same one. Okay, if you can look too. I think yours is the 2021.
The last time I took it, it was at the county office when Bianca came over and the three of us, Jerry and Bianca and I were at the county office. And that was the second time I had taken it.
That might have been 2020.
Everything smushes together.
It does.
Well, shall we move on to board reports? 7.6 board reports. Jerry, anything to share?
No,
Amy?
The only thing that I thought of is just a reminder, if you want to get your sweatshirts and t-shirts for Northern United Humboldt Charter School, you have to have those orders in by Monday.
I noticed that the style was different.
It is a little different.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I like the one that I had.
I know.
It
There's
looks
a
the
zip up.
back.
There's a zip up.
Oh, jacket style.
Yeah, my kids are excited about that. That's all. That's all.
Melissa, do you have anything to share?
Nothing from me this week.
Well, I have a couple of things because I wasn't at the last board meeting, so I know this is old news. I'd like to thank Jerry for representing the board at the Fall Summit. He has taken that on for a long time and does an outstanding job. And I'd like to thank Amy for stepping in last meeting when I was not here. The Cutton Learning Center had their back to school night that Amy shared last meeting, but I want to throw my 2 cents worth in as well. The cafeteria was packed, lots of parents, lots of students. The rooms were bright. You could tell that they were set up and ready to go for learning. From what I could hear visiting the different rooms, staff was very, very open to hear comments and just in general, hear from the parents. I was out of town during the Eureka Learning Center's back to school night, so I visited on my own. I was really impressed, as I always am, with our facility there. The students and the staff, you could really tell that there was an awful lot of learning going on. A lot of respect back and forth between the adults and the students. It was just nice to see. And then I don't know if anybody is aware of this, but this week was School Administration Appreciation Week. And I think on behalf of the board, we appreciate all that our administrators do for our students and families, community as a whole. So thank you, school administrators. And with that, we will move on to 8.1, our next board meeting, possible agenda items.
Well, I'll bring the thing that we talked about earlier, like the summary of requirements for board members. And then we also have at least 2 policies for sure that I'm going to be bringing forward. One having to do with TK, and I can't remember what the other one is. There's a note on my desk.
We have the pay policy,
Wasn't that? It's something
The
else.
pay schedule, right, but we have to add the stipend changes.
I don't remember what the other one is.
Transportation.
No, mileage reimbursement. That's the other one. Mileage reimbursement and TK policy. Those will come back. And then I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. There may be an item related to a teacher and a waiver that's needed, but we're still seeing. He might pass his test before then, and then we won't need it. We won't need it. Yes.
all right. 8.2, our next board meeting is scheduled for November the 8th. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and I will adjourn this meeting at 5:13.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you, everyone.